a fascinating interview, a monstrous musical, and Harley introduces us to a very funny family. It's all coming up on Houston Theater Beat. Hi everybody, and welcome to Houston Theater Beat. I'm your host, John Lazo. We're headed full speed into September and October, and that means that all of the theaters here in Greater Houston are in full production mode. The old saying that on any given weekend, you can see almost any type of play that you like here in Houston is certainly no truer than it is right now. And we're happy to be bringing you some of the best right here on HTV. In this month's Backstage segment, I'll be joined by writer, director, producer, and Houston Press theater critic Jim Tommaney. Jim will share some of his fascinating stories of his extraordinary life in the theater, his experience as a theater critic here in Houston, and some of his upcoming projects. In our In Performance segment, we'll take a look at SRO's production of the hilarious Mel Brooks musical Young Frankenstein, which is coming up at Obsidian Art Space just in time for Halloween. And Harley has hunted down a great hot ticket for this month at the Ensemble Theater, a regional premiere comedy that you definitely don't want to miss. Plus, the Marquee will keep you up to date on shows going on all over town. So let's get started. Hi everybody, and welcome to this month's Backstage segment. I'm here in the studio, and I'm very happy to be joined today by Jim Tommaney, who is a very well-known writer, producer, and director here in Houston, and who is also a critic for the Houston Press. And Jim has many years in the theater and I invited him today to share some of those stories that he has with the Houston Theater Beat audience, and also to tell us about projects that he has coming up as well, going on here in Houston. Jim, welcome. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you, John.
On Houston Theater Beat. It's great to have you. Jim, one of the things that I think the Houston Theater Beat audience would be fascinated about is you have worked in the theater now for many, many years, and I'm sure that you've seen a lot of changes in the work environment between the time you started and the theater that we're experiencing now, the live theater scene here in Houston. Can you give us some background on your introduction to theater? What got you interested, what got you started, and some of the people that you've worked with?
Well, it was almost spontaneous. Back in 1973, I wrote a play in a weekend. And somewhat to my surprise, because I had short stories published in the Paris Review and New World Writing, but that was my first play. I sent it off to the Public Theater, and they were going to do it. They fought over it for 3 weeks, and then they finally said, no, it's really a movie, and they changed their mind about it. But I had, if I had come that close with my first effort, I thought I should learn about theater. And so I took a course from John Ford Noonan, a wonderful playwright and an Obie winner, and a brilliant actor and a brilliant playwright. And he said the only people who know how to write plays are actors. And so I studied acting. I was living in Brooklyn at that point, on Clinton Hill. So I studied acting at Pratt University. And but then I moved to Miami in '88. And I got caught up in the cultural arts scene of artists there. And I became a conceptual artist until 1991, when George Herbert Walker Bush made me a playwright. Because I was so incensed over the first Persian Gulf War, where we sent 550,000 troops halfway across the world to save a monarchy, that I wrote a play called The Sadness of the Soil. And I had a reading of that in New York City on the day that Saddam Hussein surrendered and left Kuwait. But so that had gotten me re-involved in playwriting.
Now, after leaving South Beach, you came here to Houston.
Well, I was in South Beach for 5 years, and then I was an additional 10 years in the Miami Design District.
Okay.
But I moved to Houston in 2010. My family was all here.
Sure.
And my twin brother had settled here 50 years ago. So Houston has been like my second home for a long time.
Right. And tell the Houston Theater Beat audience now about, because now you're a familiar face here in Houston, the theater projects that you have had going on here in Houston. I know that one of the things that I saw recently and thoroughly enjoyed was your original script, Viv, about the life of Vivian Lee. That and some of the other projects you've been involved with here.
Well, I was welcomed to Houston by the Country Playhouse, which is very generous in letting me direct Sylvia in September 2010, and I've directed 2 additional plays there since then. I formed Edge Theater in Houston, and I opened it with the Shaw play, and then we did the regional premiere of a new play by Gurney, a couple of years old now, called The Grand Manor, about him meeting Catherine Cornell when he was a 17-year-old student.
Wow.
And that was like a wonderful production with a wonderful cast. We then did just the 3rd production of Everett Alby's latest play called Me, Myself, and I. Everett Albee came to our audition process.
Wow.
And he approved my cast, and he led us through the play. We had to send him detailed descriptions of everything, the kind of fabric we used for the bedspread, where the bed would be. If I wanted to put a throw rug on the floor, I had to get permission. So he was going to direct it, but they were reviving The Lady from Dubuque back in New York at that point, so he was back in New York, so I directed it instead.
That's amazing. Definitely talk about Viv, because as I said, I thoroughly enjoyed the production because she's one of my favorite actresses, and of course Gone with the Wind is my favorite movie of all time. What inspired that for you? Why a play about Vivian Lee? What was that experience like?
Well, I was become fascinated by her, and that she was. We know her from her 2 major Academy Award winning films, Streetcar Named Desire and Gone with the Wind. But essentially she was a British stage actress, and that she worked all the time. And she and Olivier were the British royalty. And she was a strong woman who got her own way. And she stalked Laurence Olivier until she got him to leave his pregnant wife and go off and establish a love nest outside London with her. And they couldn't get married for like 3 years until they finally persuaded their spouses to give them divorces. But I loved her because she was forthright, and she was very witty, and she survived major health problems. At the age of 53, she passed away, but at 50, she did her first Broadway musical and won a Tony for that.
Wow. Let's talk for a couple of minutes about one of your most important roles now that you have assumed, which is a theater critic for the Houston Press. You have joined the staff there, and you are out in many audiences. You were just in an audience for something that I was in, so I had the pressure of seeing Jim out in the audience while I was performing in Cat on a Hot Tin Roof out at Stage Door in Pasadena. What led you to the Houston Press? Obviously, you can tell from your writing that you enjoy writing the criticism. You bring, of course, a very rich theatrical background to your criticism. What led you to that, and what's the most rewarding about that for you?
Well, when I was in South Beach, I did a lot of pro bono interviewing, and so the critics there often avoided, they didn't bother with the smaller theaters. And so I wrote reviews for 3 or 4 weekly papers, excuse me. And so I had a background of reviewing. And then I saw it in a little ad in the Houston Press looking for a theater critic. Mm-hmm. I sent them a letter saying, please don't hate me because I'm overqualified, and sent some reviews. And they hired me on the telephone, and this was January of 2011, 2.5 years ago, and we never met for a year. I went to the Christmas party. It was the first time I met them. Every week I would send them reviews, and they would send me some money.
That's good.
But I love reviewing.
Arrangement.
I love reviewing because it gives me a chance. I love theater, of course, and it gives me a chance to see everything.
Right.
And I love seeing the actors and see them grow. And it lets me keep in touch with some of the brilliant actors here in Houston.
Right.
My philosophy is to the critic has to, of course, tell the truth, and let the readers know what to expect. And so, if mistakes are made, then I think mistakes have to have attention called to them.
Sure.
But I try to be gentle if I can, gentle but clear.
You have you coming up a production of an original script that you wrote called Antonio.
Yes.
Which is coming up in October at Midtown Arts Center. Give the Houston Theater Beat audience a little bit of an idea about what that script is about, and then we'll give them the information on the production as well.
Well, I'm a great fan of Pedro Almodovar, the Spanish filmmaker. I think he's absolutely brilliant, and that is each scene is a canvas. The colors are perfect, the framing is perfect, the colors are perfect. He's an absolute cinematographer genius, and that he has such heart and such a love for women that I just love his work. And it's always very interesting as well. Antonio Banderas starred in 5 of his films for him, and that Antonio came to Madrid as a youth, and suddenly he was a movie star. He starred in 5 films for Pedro, and then was carted off to America to be an American movie star. So I wondered about that relationship, which was an older man who had mentored a younger man and made him into a movie star. And that's what the play is about, that kind of relationship. I've changed the main character to a successful painter who mentors his model and makes him into first a clothing model and then into a movie star.
That's coming up at, you're going to be doing that at Midtown Arts Center.
Yes, I am.
Okay. And let's get the production dates for the Houston Theater Beat audience. Antonio opens on
October 4th.
October 4th, okay, and runs through
October 20th.
October 20th. So Antonio, which is Jim's latest creation that's going to be produced at Midtown Arts Center, is coming up October 4th through October 20th. You definitely want to make sure you get your tickets to go see it. Jim, is it a one-act or a full-length play?
It's a full-length play.
Full-length play, okay. And the website address for you to get tickets online to see Antonio at Midtown Arts Center, Jim, that is, you're using Brown Paper Ticket?
Yes.
Okay. That's www.brownpapertickets.com. Again, it's www.brownpapertickets.com, which is one of the theatrical ticket servers that's available to theater goers here in Houston. Make sure you go to that website and make sure that you get your tickets to go see Antonio at Midtown Arts Center coming up in October. Written and directed.
Yes.
And produced.
And produced.
Produced by Jim Tommaney. And also make sure that you catch Jim's reviews and his critiques of theater going on here in town in the Houston Press, which comes out every Thursday, and also the online version of the Houston Press, of course, and see what Jim has to say about the theater going on here in town. It's very interesting reading. Jim, thank you so much for being with us today on Houston Theater Beat. It was great having you as a guest. I'm glad you were able to come in.
Thank you, John. I really appreciate it.
Sure, absolutely. Everybody stay tuned. We're going to be back with more of the show in just a moment.
TUTS Underground presents Lizzie. Lizzie the Musical is a rock show that retells the legend of America's first and favorite axe-wielding double murderess and Victorian hometown girl, Lizzie Borden. This rock musical takes you back to 1892 in Fall River, Massachusetts, when a young Lizzie Borden was accused of brutally killing her father and stepmother. Gathering inspiration from the likes of Kiss, Alice Cooper, The Runaways, and Led Zeppelin, Lizzie the musical uses hard rock instrumentals and strong ballad lyrics to tell the story of Lizzie's double murders using actual dialogue from the infamous trials. Lizzie runs from October 10th through October 20th. For tickets and information, visit the TUTS Underground website at www.tutsunderground.com. Rice University presents Rabbit Hole. The Rice University Department of Visual and Dramatic Art presents the Rice Players production of Rabbit Hole by David Lindsay-Abaire. Becca and Howie Corbett have everything a family could want until a life-shattering accident turns their world upside down and leaves the couple drifting perilously apart. Rabbit Hole charts their bittersweet search for comfort in the darkest of places and for a path that will lead them back into the light of day. Rabbit Hole runs from October 3rd through October 12th at Rice University's Hammond Hall. For tickets, call 713-348-PLAY or email hammond@rice.edu. Playhouse 1960 presents Enchanted April. Feeling lost in their marriages and in the rapidly shifting social currents of post-World War I London, two middle-class housewives rent a villa in Italy for an impulsive holiday away from their lives, reluctantly recruiting a pair of independent, upper-class women to share the cost and experience. There, among the wisteria blossoms and Mediterranean sunshine, all four clash, and then begin to bloom, rediscovering themselves in ways that they never could have imagined. Enchanted April runs from October 4th through October 26th. For tickets and information, visit the Playhouse 1960 website at www.ph1960.com. Remember, all shows and dates are subject to change, so visit the theater websites for the latest information. We'll see you at the show. Hi everybody, welcome to this month's In Performance segment. And I'm here at the rehearsal space at Obsidian Art Space, being joined by the director and some of the crew members for Standing Room Only's upcoming production of the hilarious Mel Brooks musical based on his classic comedy film, Young Frankenstein. And I'm being joined today by Wayne Landon, who is the director, also by Liz Tinder, who's playing Inga, by Michael Robbie, who's playing the monster, and on the end by Tyler Galindo, who's playing Frederick Frankenstein. Everybody, thank you for joining me this month on Houston Theater Beat.
Thank you.
Wayne, talk to the Houston Theater Beat audience a little bit about this musical version of this story. Of course, the film is a classic comedy film, history-making in many ways. And tell the audience a little bit about what this musical version involves. Is it similar to the movie, different? How are the audiences going to enjoy it?
John, thanks for inviting us on.
Absolutely.
Actually, most of the film is actually in the musical, but there's some wonderful music by Mel Brooks. That's one of the really neat things about the show is you get to hear the show as you remember it, but you also get to hear some outstanding music, and you'll be amazed at how well Mel can write music.
Right.
And then the other thing is the choreography. Liz is the choreographer.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Liz is also the choreographer. Got that in the intro. Right.
Yeah.
Amongst her other talents.
Yeah, we're really excited about a bit of Obsidian. One of the things that when we selected our shows this year, we wanted to put on shows that could be done in a very small, intimate performance setting. And this is going to be one in which the audience can actually be part of Young Frankenstein. So it's going to be done with a monochromatic look, along with choreography and music. We're really excited about it.
That's fantastic. What a great choice this is. So much fun for the audiences in October with Halloween coming up and everything. Liz, tell us a little bit about Inga. Some of the movie buffs are probably familiar with her from the film, her role in The Hang.
Oh,
What has this experience been like for you?
So far, I mean, it's been a trip. It's always been a character, honestly, I wanted to play. Like, ever since I saw the movie, I've always been a huge Mel Brooks fan. Like, growing up, watching all of the movies, Blazing Saddles, you know, and this role is just, she's so funny, and she's so interesting in that most of the time she's kind of not all keyed in, and then those moments of that rich, just I'm really here and emotionally invested, and just her heart, you know, really, really intense.
Michael is a familiar face to Houston theater-going audiences, of course, and he, from what I understand, is having the ball playing the monster. Tell me about how much fun you're having, what the experience is like for you.
Yeah, it's been an incredible opportunity. I really wanted to do this show. If people caught a certain performance I did last October, a very serious rendition of the monster. This was everything I wanted to do last year, but wasn't allowed to. So I get to let loose. I get to have a lot of fun, and one of the best things about it is there's not a whole lot of lines to memorize.
Right.
I just get to grunt a lot. So I'm figuring that's why I was typecast that way.
That sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah, nobody wants to hear me speak.
And Tyler, also a familiar face to Houston theater-going audiences, one of our great voices in Houston theater. Tell me about Frederick and what the experience has been like for you playing him. Another obviously popular character from the film.
Right. It's scary, and it's a great privilege, and I'm really honored to do it. It's one of my dad and I's favorite movies, and we can quote it back and forth, and I've seen it ever since I was small, and I got to see it when it was on Broadway across America, when it came through with TUTS, starring Roger Barr, the original Frederick Frankenstein. And I mean, it was awesome to see him, and I got to meet him afterwards, and it was really great, and I'm just so thrilled to play it.
Fantastic, that's great. Well, stay tuned, because what we have coming up right now is the cast of Young Frankenstein is going to be performing a musical number from the show called The Happiest Town in Town, and that's coming up right now.
Maker of monsters.
Listen to our tale of woe, a story we must tell. What happened in that castle made our lives a living hell. A madman who was crazy brought a dead man back to life. Who hurt and lamed and killed and made our town was torn with strife. But now we're not afraid no more, we see a brighter day. He's laid to rest, we're truly blessed, and this is what we say. Things are swell now, ring the bell now. We're in heaven, no more hell now. Now the doctor's dead, goodbye to dread. We're the happiest town in town. We're all smiles now, lose that frown now. No more monsters get us down now. Now the doctor's blessed, we're free at last. We're the happiest town in town.
Oh, it's a happiness. Because as long as a Frankenstein lives, our village is in danger.
But Inspector, the Baron is dead. And he was the last of the Frankensteins.
No!
No?
One lives. A grandson.
Who is he? What does he do?
He's a professor, the dean of anatomy at New York's most famous institute of higher learning, Sir John's Merriam and Anthony Hopkins School of Medicine. As long as this young Frankenstein talks to us, we will never be safe.
I may be the village idiot, but I asked you, what are the chances of a New York doctor coming all the way to Transylvania? None!
On this happy day we say amen. We have wanted this since God knows when.
No more Frankenstein!
You can say that again
guys, thank you very much for that wonderful number from Young Frankenstein the Musical. Don't forget it's coming up in October at Obsidian Art Space. Make sure you get your tickets. Wayne, you've got all the information for the Houston Theater Beat audience to know when the show is, get their tickets. Go ahead and share that information.
Yes, thank you. The show is October 3rd through 26th. It's Thursday, Friday, Saturday nights at 8 o'clock. And we also have one Sunday performance on, let me look here, October 20th. Right. It'll be at 3 p.m. You can get your tickets at www.sro-productions.com. And what else you need, John?
That's it.
All right.
That's good, because the most important thing to remember, Houston Theater Beat audience, make sure for all things Young Frankenstein, go to the SRO website, which is www.sro-productions.com. Don't forget the dash. Find out more about Young Frankenstein coming up in October at Obsidian, and make sure you get your tickets because it's going to be very popular, and we're expecting sold-out houses, I believe, for this particular show. I'd like to thank my guests this month, Wayne Landon, who's the director of Young Frankenstein the Musical, Liz Tender playing Inga, Michael Robbie playing the Monster, and Tyler Galindo playing Frederick Frankenstein. And stay tuned, we'll be back with more of the show in just a moment. This month, the Great One takes us to the Ensemble Theater for the one show that you can't miss, a comedy that looks very likely to make audiences both laugh and think. The Ensemble Theater kicks off its 2013-2014 season with the regional premiere of Immediate Family by Paul Oakley Stovall and directed by Eileen J. Morris. In Immediate Family, the oldest son, Jesse, is a closeted gay man on the verge of coming out to his family. Soon, however, everyone discovers that Jesse isn't the only one with secrets. Audiences will see from a comical perspective a family learning to mend fractured relationships and adapting to their rapidly changing family dynamics. In the Bryant family's Hyde Park home, keeping a secret is next to impossible. And when the entire clan comes together for the first time in more than 5 years, this family reunion turns into a family showdown when the realities of race, religion, and sexuality all collide. Immediate Family is in previews on September 21st, 22nd, and 25th, and runs from September 26th through October 20th. There will be talkbacks after the shows on September 21st and September 26th. Of course, the Ensemble has been producing some of the best theater in Houston since 1976, and the 2013-2014 season looks to be no exception. For more information on Immediate Family and the entire upcoming season at the Ensemble, visit the Ensemble Theater website at www.ensemblehouston.com. Well, that's all for this edition of Houston Theater Beat. I'm your host, John Lazo, and until next time, I'll see you at the show.